is absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once, if you would.
You want to see it?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
All right, for everybody that has been a part of our AWA Unleashed Army for the past, 3+ years, you know that it's out of control. You know that it's crazy. You know that it's goofy. So many of those words and those superlatives by the legends, whether it's Crusher, Bruiser, it's Hulk Hogan, Jesse the Body, Stan Hansen, and his 9 kids and a fat wife. Well, I don't have a fat wife. I have a couple of plump podcasters with me, and Mick Karch and Joe Chupik. I'm plump too, so don't give me that look.
Well, I'm going to give you the look because the timing on your intro there, right when you said the word fat, I appeared on the screen.
No, fat is pretty hot and tasty. Okay, fat. It's not F-A-T, it's P-H-A-T. That's what the kids are saying. That's what the kids are saying. It's word on the street.
Back in 1992, maybe.
Yeah, 1992 called. They want their saying back. Okay, I get it. Ha ha, that's funny.
Boom, boom.
Okay. Now, in all seriousness, guys, this is one that I have been looking forward to, and we're going to bypass all of the tomfoolery that we normally do with the shenanigans and the promoting and everything. You guys know I'll put those up throughout the course of the show. But there are some things in professional wrestling that can catch fire. And as you know, you guys know that in order to be successful in any realm of any business, you got to be unique. You got to be different. And especially when you've got a saturated marketplace, you know, we love our wrestling podcasting. We love what we do, but we do something different than what anybody else is doing. And we cover old school wrestling with, you know, some videos, some visual aids and whatnot. Today, we are going to be joined by maybe the hottest thing in professional wrestling, and that's not hyperbole, guys. There is one particular podcaster and channel that is white hot, that is over like Rover. And I got 4 words for you. Hey guys, it's Maven. Or hey guys, Maven here. It is absolutely the best thing that is going on in wrestling, podcasting outside of us. And we are thrilled to be joined by Maven. Maven is going to be joining us momentarily. But first of all, before we get to Maven, I want to bring in my friend, Zach Werre. And for those that don't know Zach,
hey guys,
you
Zach here.
are one of the masterminds behind this wild phenomenon that has taken off with Maven and your YouTube channel. So first of all, I got to say, I love you. I'm proud of you because you and I go back many, many years.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. And I guess I kind of want to just jump right into this real quick because the journey to the Maven channel, I'll explain how that all came about. But the journey did kind of start with you, Chris. Give the backstory to.
So can I take credit for all of your success? Can I take credit for it?
I don't know. I won't go that far. But I won't stop you. No, for everyone watching, so Chris and I met back in 2015, both living in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Around that same year, Nick Eugene Dinsmore, former WWE superstar, he moved to Sioux Falls with his then fiance, Stephanie, and they were going to start a professional wrestling promotion and a school in Sioux Falls. And for like the past 2 years at that point, I was so, I was hungry. I was like, man, I really want like wrestling to come to Sioux Falls. I'd love to do media stuff. I'd love to film wrestling shows, make, hype videos. Just I want to be part of, I want to do video production. I want to be part of wrestling, but there was no wrestling in the entire state of South Dakota. So it was just something that was always out of reach. So then finally, when Nick Dinsmore came, I found out about it because you, Chris, had interviewed him on the sports radio that you were a part of. And that, instantly I heard, oh my gosh, this former wrestler's coming, this former WWE superstar's coming. He started a school. Like, this is, a dream come true for me. And then from that, that's how you and I met. And we were part of Nick Dinsmore's wrestling school and promotion, Midwest All Pro, for a little while. And so, just phenomenal stuff. That's kind of how it started with me getting into the professional wrestling business. And so, and you were a part of that.
And I remember you and I sitting at Nick's kitchen table going over this video that we had shot from a couple of shows and, coming up with this idea of a television show. And it's like, okay, we can do this and we can do this. And we were sitting there and, we had these ideas and we had these plans. And ultimately, a few things that we wanted to do fell apart. Yeah, just no fault of our own because of the individuals that we were doing business with. Ultimately ended up not being on the up and up, surprise. But then, I ended up getting a job at a major radio network and I move away from Sioux Falls. You're still there and you work the independent, deal with Below Zero Wrestling in Fargo. And then you connect with Maven. And I want to ask you, how do you come up with the idea? Because we're going to bring Maven in here in a minute. I want to ask you, how do you come up with the idea of a podcast channel? And then ultimately, how do you approach Maven? I assume that this was just a cold inquiry.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to how we got to Maven, I have to go back to Sioux Falls, Midwest All Pro Nick Dinsmore, because not a lot of people know this, but the Maven channel, I actually tried this several years before I did it with Maven with Nick Dinsmore. It was 2016, so been working with Nick for a little bit. We're doing Midwest All Pro, we're filming, all that stuff. And I don't even really know how I got the idea, but just, okay, Nick, he had a WWE career. He wrestled with, Triple H, Kurt Angle, these legends of the business. He has this really unique perspective. He wrestled for the biggest wrestling company the world's ever seen, and like that's, there's an audience there. We could do something. So I pitched it to Nick and he was on board to give it a shot. We did. I believe the videos are still on YouTube. I could be wrong, but we did a YouTube channel. The Nick Dinsmore is what we called it. And basically our videos we would do where it'd be Nick, he would be reacting to some of his matches. He reacted to when he was in the ring with The Rock, when he was wrestling Triple H, when he was wrestling Kurt Angle at SummerSlam. And then, also telling stories, behind the scenes stories. So we did that for several months. I think it was maybe 6-8 months or so. And, we were both obviously busy with our own stuff outside of the channel. Nick Dinsmore, he's running Midwest All Pro. I'm still kind of going through college part-time, also working. And I'm also just not.
Yeah,
exactly.
You had a lot on your plate at that point. That much.
Yes, absolutely. No, absolutely. And I just also I knew some video stuff, but I was still learning that, but I also really didn't know, like, okay, what makes for actually like content that people want to watch on YouTube,
Well, we're still trying to figure that out. So
I'm still in too. There's videos I put out like, man, people are going to love this. And then no one watched. I'm like, oh, I guess they did it. And then videos that I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to really want to watch this. Let's just get it out and, move on to the next thing. And then everyone watches it. I'm like, okay, what? I guess I don't know this. But anyway, so eventually the channel with Nick Dinsmore faded out. We just, time and everything. And then, kind of that was that. And so, but it was still in the back of my head. I feel like as I was starting to do more of my own stuff, I started my own YouTube channel called Tap Out Corner, where I did like wrestling. I still work on it, wrestling top 10s and list videos. And the stuff I found out from that channel, from Tap Out Corner, was people tended to like the videos that were kind of pulling back the curtain behind the scenes. Like, how do wrestlers bleed? Are the chairs, are they real? The sledgehammer, how does Triple H's sledgehammer works? How does he actually, is it a real sledgehammer? Is it a fake sledgehammer? Like that sort of, those questions were the ones that I found that people tended to like the most. And so from working on Tap Out Corner and doing those videos, I was like, man, like you should really get like someone who has that experience, that firsthand experience of wrestling in a WWE ring, being hit by these weapons, and just that whole perspective that they could offer. And they should be doing these videos talking about which weapons actually hurt and how wrestlers bleed. So that was kind of where, and that kind of, I said I'd done it with Nick Dinsmore before, but it kind of reignited that fire for me of like, I really want to do this, former WWE wrestler explains type channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so just, but then the hard part was, it's like, okay, how do you work with a former WWE wrestler? Like you need someone to kind of introduce you, like if you have a middleman that can kind of, introduce it, because it's people like to work with people that they know.
Absolutely. Making those cold connections is really hard, because nowadays who's legit, who's not, who's out there to just put themselves over. It's a hard area to break into if you don't have the right connection.
Exactly. And I'm sure you know that firsthand, Chris. And like, and it's and I don't blame anyone. I'll be in the exact same boat where it's just, someone random reaches out to you. You don't know who they are. It's a lot simpler and easy just to say no. And I get to, there's a lot of like, not necessarily always like there's scams, but there's also just stuff where it's, not quite what it's all made up to be. So I totally get that. So, but it does, it is a bit of an uphill battle when you're trying to do something like this. That's kind of unique, and trying to get someone to kind of give you their trust, with, hey, I want to do basically a YouTube channel about you, and let me, direct how it's going to look and everything. That's tough for people to say, yep, here, I'll do whatever.
Give a complete stranger control.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a perfect way of putting it. So that was always tough. But then after a while, just this idea of like this former wrestler explains YouTube channel, just kind of like, oh man, I really want to do this. So finally, I think it was April 2023, the bug was biting me. I'm like, okay, I gotta just try. If I try doing it and I get no, at least I can say I tried. So now slight detour to the story. The reason, I ended up reaching out to Maven, but why Maven out of all the wrestlers, what specifically made you choose Maven? I had watched Tough Enough season 1 when they put it on the WWE network back in 2015, and absolutely loved it, got hooked, just thought really, really connected with it. And obviously Maven won the first season of Tough Enough, and that's how he became a WWE wrestler. And so he was always in the back of my head. Like, even if people would ask me, like, who are your favorite wrestlers? I'll give some names, and I'd be like, oh, and Maven, I really like Maven, and so I always, and even back then, even when I was watching the show, I was like thinking, man, it'd be cool to do a YouTube channel with Maven. Like, it feels like it'd be realistic. Like there's a small chance that it could happen. And just, he has the Tough Enough stuff he could talk about. He eliminated The Undertaker. He was there for several years. He has these experiences. It'd be cool to, just do a YouTube channel.
He was a main eventer for quite a while there. Like, I mean, he was a main part of those shows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, he had especially towards the end of 2004, he was doing the stuff with Triple H and Randy Orton, feuding with Evolution a bit. And then obviously he had his heel turn and stuff. So yeah, and that was always my thought. Like, yeah, he wasn't a world champion, at that level, but he still had he was in the ring with Triple H. Like, that's, he was in the ring with, Kurt Angle and The Undertaker. Like, these are, big stars, and I feel like, that perspective, it's, he did stuff basically that a very, very, very small amount of people in this world have ever done. I'm like, I feel like there's something there, something that could get people's attention. So finally I said, I'm going to reach out to Maven. I want to do a YouTube channel with them. I've wanted to do this former WWE wrestler explains channel. Let me try to reach out to Maven, and so I look up, I find that he has a LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more professional. Maybe that'll make it seem a little bit more legit than if I reach out to his Instagram, for instance. So type up a message to him, keep it pretty short, just, hey, I run a YouTube channel, Tap Out Corner. Here's kind of what we do. Here's my idea. If you're interested, I'd love to talk more. And sent it out just thinking, okay, 2 things are going to happen. 1, he doesn't respond. 2, he does respond and he says, thanks, but no thanks, not interested. I'm like, that's it. Little did I know there was an option 3. And a day later, I get a message back from Maven on LinkedIn, and he says, yeah, no, I'm definitely interested in this. Let's chat. So, like, oh gosh, okay, this might actually work. So we set up a Zoom, we get introduced to each other. I explained the idea a little bit more about, here's what I'm thinking. Here's, obviously by 2003 there was, or 2023 I should say, there's not a shortage of wrestling podcasts out there.
Yeah.
So how can we? And a lot of them have established audiences and listeners. And as I was telling you earlier, Chris, people only have 24 hours in a day. So how do you build an audience from scratch when everything is just, it feels like everything's already built.
Yeah.
So I explained a little bit more of my idea of here's where I think we could be a bit different from everyone else. Here's where I think,
that's the key, man. Be different, be unique. Don't do what
Exactly.
everybody else is doing, because you're just going to get caught up in the water.
Exactly. So, flesh it out. We had a few Zoom calls, kind of going back and forth on some ideas. And then in May 2023, I fly out to New Jersey, meet up with Maven there. And I think we spent about 3 days together, 3 full days, and got like our first 5 to 6 videos filmed. Then spent, the next few months getting them edited, get everything perfected. And then, if I'm remembering correctly, it was July 21st, 2023. We posted the very first video. And then, a little bit of traction, but within, I would say, about a week or two, then we started seeing, okay, there's an audience for this. And really, ever since we posted that first video, it's been one video every single Friday.
That's absolutely incredible. And I want to bring in the man himself, who, if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But there he is.
What's going on, guys?
Hey guys, Maven here. What's up, dude? I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, guys, it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's weird, like, because normally I'm the one telling that story, so it's weird to hear it from from an outside source. But it just goes to show all the right things had to fall into place in order for this to happen. Zach had to meet you. Zach had to know Nick Dinsmore. He had to try an idea and not meet the success that he envisioned. Mm-hmm. And then I had to have LinkedIn, and to be honest with you, here's the craziest part about that. LinkedIn at that time was something I maybe checked every 3 weeks, maybe. And so the fact that I looked at it that day, and then, what he didn't know is, he was questionable if I would say, yeah. I was like, hell yeah, let's do this now. Like, are you kidding? And I think it's because I always knew I had something to give. But I was at a time in my life when I was even questioning that something and questioning if what I think I have even exists. And I can't believe I was one of his favorite wrestlers. Hell, I'm not my own favorite wrestler. I'm not in my top 10. So I was just honored at the fact. And again, what else had to fall in place? Tough Enough had to be on the channel, something that he could access. And it just goes to show that for me, there's a higher power, someone up there that even when you're doubting yourself, there might be someone else that sees benefit and sees something in you that you don't. And I'll be honest with you, ever since that first meetup when we left, because I don't know YouTube. Yeah. But I asked Zach, I put all my trust in him. And I said, like, you do your thing, and I'll try to give you what you need. And we got done. We filmed, like he said, about 6 videos, and I was getting ready to go home. Because at this point, it could just be another failed business venture on my end. I've had a few. and I looked at him, and I remember him looking at me, and he said, I think we got something here. He's like, don't get excited yet, but I think we got something here. And if you've ever seen Tap Out Corner, the kid knows this. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to.
I knew right away. There was. I wouldn't tell this to his face, but I knew something. There was something about him right away. Like, he had a drive and a vision that I don't think kids his age had, and it's so hard to find that.
He's like a damn ghost hunter. You can walk into a room and I don't see shit, but somebody beside me's communicating with a ghost. Like Zach sees shit that I would never even think of. We'll be making a video and I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll say this. And he'll be like, no, what if we go at it this way? And I'm like, holy cow, he's right. Because you and now it's funny. Now I get all these damn wrestlers that hit me up thinking I know YouTube. And it's he knows what people will be interested in. He knows how to hook someone and how to make people say, I didn't know I want to know that, but now I can't foresee my life without this information. And what we get a lot of comments on a weekly basis, and there's two that I know are my favorites. I think they're Zach's favorites too. One are, I hated you as a wrestler, or I didn't even know who the hell you were, but I love what you're doing here. And the second one is, you're giving us the stories we didn't know we needed. And that speaks to, like you said, him being wise beyond his years and seeing what just what was out there. And he laid it down to me. That first Zoom call we had was an hour and a half, and he told me, he said, wrestlers do it wrong. He's like, YouTube is a resource that wrestlers do not use correctly. It'd be like trying to eat a bowl of cereal with a knife. You might get a couple Lucky Charms in your mouth, but you're missing out on the full taste of it. And I, again, he said it. There's a couple times we've had some videos that we thought were going to do good that just didn't perform, but that pales in comparison to the videos we put out. Like last week, we put out last week's video. I'm thinking this is going to fucking tank.
That was what was coming to mind.
Yeah. And a day into it, we got 200,000 views, and it's just, and again, it's stuff that I wouldn't even begin to think that I wouldn't have the ego to think someone cares to know my opinion on the matter. And he just, and it's funny. Like, I'm 48 years old. I've seen a lot of shit in my life, good and bad. I've had a great life, but I didn't have on my bingo card a 26-year-old kid from South Dakota changing my life, but he did. I
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I'm thankful he did too.
Yeah, well, we better let him get going before his head gets too big.
Yeah,
he'll be out.
Keep it coming.
And I keep him in check. Don't worry, I keep him in check. He does the same to me, though, too. He does the same to me.
You guys have a good synergy. Zach, I know you got to get going, brother. But again, I love you. I'm proud of you. And you know what? We're going to continue to be in contact because, man, you're doing good stuff. And I am proud of you, man. I'm really super proud of you. From the days that we were in Sioux Falls talking about things at Nick Dinsmore's kitchen table to now, kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Before Zach goes, hold up, Zach. Hell, you're used to me interrupting you by now. Zach, we get, no less than probably 20 requests for interviews weekly, and I just physically can't do them all.
Yeah.
There's only been about 2 times that he's hit me up and said, this is a personal favor to me.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And so that's what Chris, just know before he leaves, like he doesn't ask often. So he must have a good healthy amount of respect and fondness for you to ask.
No, well, if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't be who he was.
Yes,
he wouldn't have your channel if it wasn't for me because of giving Zach his platform. So, like I said, I'm going to take credit for everything.
Even still, I still tried to get out of it. I'm kidding.
But no, Chris, I really appreciate that.
Zach.
Real quick, I really appreciate you saying all that, Chris. And likewise, Maven, thank you for saying all that. But just want to say too, fantastic job, Mick and Joe, as well as you, Chris, on the AWA Unleashed podcast. I've been seeing you guys grow over the years and stuff, and so just congratulations on everything with what you're doing, and thanks again for this.
Thank you, Zach.
Zach, let me do some Chris, let me do some housekeeping before Zach leaves. Hey,
Yeah.
Zach, our video that's due tomorrow, are we going to tell him what it is? Do I have because I'm looking forward to
It'll
tomorrow.
be out by the time I believe this episode is out. So
Oh, yeah.
you won't be giving them the exclusive that you think.
We're not live, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I don't trust myself to do things live anymore.
Zach, thank you. Really,
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
Take
Zach.
care, guys.
All right, Zach, take care.
See you, buddy.
Maven,
Man,
I thought he'd never leave.
I'm like, dude, I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and 15 minutes later, I'm like, somebody needed to tell him this includes the entrance, the way to the ring. You get 3 minutes in the ring.
Nah.
But
He'll be all right.
he's a good dude.
He'll be
You know
all right.
what? You guys, you have such a unique product, and I want to get into that in a minute here. But I mean, your history, like you've got such a unique journey to where you're at now. I kind of want to start with like your athletic background. Like, I mean, you play a lot of sports in high school growing up, big wrestling fan and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the kid that you don't see anymore. You know how it's a ghost town when you look outside now, and to me, it's one of the saddest parts of where society has gotten, that you don't see kids outside playing anymore. I used to get off the school bus and then either get a backyard football game, wiffle ball, basketball. I was constantly outside playing sports. I played baseball and football competitively. Went to college, played baseball. I'm in my college's Hall of Fame for baseball, for God's sake.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I've always had an athletic background. But that said, that can take you but so far in the wrestling world. And then how the hell do you become a wrestler? That's like asking how you become an astronaut. Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin, how do you become an astronaut? So luckily I was literally just watching, and they advertised Tough Enough. And I was like, this is for me. But even still, couldn't even let my mind wander to the thought of being on the show. I didn't even think they'd look at my videotape. I filmed the entry to Tough Enough the last day that you could postmark it. And get this, I dropped it off at the post office with about 15 minutes to spare before the post office closed, because they had to be postmarked on and a buddy of mine always tells me, he's like, man, what if we would have hit traffic that day? What if somebody would have had a flat tire? What if we would have had a flat tire? I'd be an insurance salesman somewhere. And
these are days when you had to mail it. Like you couldn't, you couldn't Dropbox or email things. Like you had to physically go someplace.
Yes, I had to physically record it on a tape. And for those kids out there, tapes were these things that you actually had to hold, and they held information. So physically had to record that, then physically had to mail and send that off and have it postmarked by a specific day. I got to say this before, and this just goes to show my ADD brain. But has anyone ever said, Mick, you look just like Jeff Daniels?
No, they haven't.
Whoa,
You look just like Jeff. Am I wrong here, Joe? Am I wrong?
I can see a slight resemblance.
Like,
Maybe
am I wrong?
Drunk Jeff Daniels, but
Well, I didn't say Jeff Daniels was attractive.
Yeah, and which Jeff Daniels are you referring to? It could be a guy at the corner bar. An old high school buddy of yours. But no, I appreciate it. Joe, I know you're going to ask questions about Tough Enough here, but I want to say this to you, Maven. In the business, is that old expression, giving somebody the rub. And I'll tell you what, you being on our podcast, I know you talked about, Zach, you don't agree to all these podcasts and requests that you get. I'm telling you, man, this is the rub. We are just this little AWA old school podcast, doing our own thing, doing our niche here. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
No.
I also wanted to tell you, you mentioned just a little bit ago that you didn't know what you had. Whether it's your wrestling ability, personality, whatever. I can tell you, and I watched your pod several times. People identify and gravitate to somebody that they can trust. And I think there's just something about you and your personality and the way you come across, your honesty, your integrity, what you're sharing about the business. People see you as a friend, and you couple that with, I just think, God-given ability to do this. And I think you're the package, man. And it is just a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. I trust me, those kind words aren't lost to me. From the beginning, I knew if we wanted to do this, I could take it one of two ways, and that was being, just very controlled in what I said and trying not to let people in on my dirt, or I could use at the time 45 years of life experience, the ups and downs, the failures, the successes, and I could be open and honest with people. And I thought to myself, what do you appreciate when you're watching someone else? Which one do you appreciate? And it wasn't even a question. The person that is vulnerable, I gravitate to. So I knew I wanted to be that when we did this. And I think vulnerability builds trust with people. When you can have someone not showing you, this elaborate French cuisine dinner they had last night, trying to make you jealous. But when someone can tell you about their faults, about where they've fallen short in life, and pick themselves up, those are the people I think that you trust, that we naturally want to cheer for and pull for and root for in life. And I knew I if we were going to do this, I had to be that guy rather than the alternative. And it's worked. What you see is me. I'm not playing Maven. I'm not playing a role. I'm not trying to, good or bad. It is me. So the fact that you recognize it, it means more to me than you can imagine. Well, because it tells me that I'm doing what I set out to do.
And you know what? You're kind of a standalone in that sense. And I don't mean to be picking on the wrestling business, but I mean there's some personalities in the wrestling business that 24/7 they're their TV character. And yeah. Some guys are easier to get to know than other guys. Some guys are just going to be standoffish, and the people know that. They recognize it, and they're not going to be bullshitted. And that's what I think is the real charm about your show. Amiable, you tell people what they want to hear, and you're just you. And again, thank you for being on the show. And Joe, I know you're chomping at the bit here about Tough Enough.
Well, don't worry. Hey, and as for the rub, don't worry. You'll get the invoice.
Hey, we'll bounce the check right over to you.
Just like Vern used to do.
I like that. Hey, I did love in the intro. I loved, and what was it from where it said, I've been hit by bar stools, bar rags. And rags. That's the best. That's so good. It's so good.
That was the late Crusher. And we've always been trying to figure out, we can understand, feeling pain from getting hit with a bar stool. But a bar rag? You're a 250-pound guy, let alone he says I got hit over the head with barmaids. So are they legitimately picking up this woman and throwing her at Crusher?
Yeah, the husky gals are coming at you. It's like
yes. There you. I miss promos like that. Oh. I miss those old school 80s style, just letting someone go, because even wrestling has gotten too scripted. Oh. Yep. The days of just giving Stone Cold a microphone and saying go for it, or the days I grew up watching NWA and Crockett Promotions and those old studio shows. To this day, when I want to go back and watch good wrestling, those are the shows I go back and watch.
Absolutely. God, the old Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA and Flair and oh God, yes.
Yeah. And you could tell they were shooting it out of this little studio down there in Atlanta. And man, you brought up a name, Magnum. Without that car accident, what does he become?
Oh Lord.
What does he become?
Yeah, I mean, absolute, top of the business. There's no doubt. He was NWA champion written all over him.
And the matches that he would have with Flair, they were so good.
Well, he and
so
Tully,
good.
the I Quit match with
Yes.
Baby Doll in the mix. I mean,
Yes.
In fact, WWE, I think, named it their top 50 matches or top whatever matches just recently. So it's sort of ironic because he texted me right at the beginning of this. So I got to give him a call after the podcast is done. But Maven, I want to go back to the Tough Enough days, like when the very first season. Actually, let me say one other thing. I second what Mick said about saying thank you for having being on the podcast. But to get to the Tough Enough, who are the coaches, the judges, and some of the other participants during that tryout? Really, is what it was.
Yeah. Well, during the tryout, it was a surreal feeling. Standing in a WWE ring. A WWE ring. It's one of the things I've seen 1,000 times, but never been close up to one, much less standing in it. And I still remember going in the ring, and once you stand in a ring, you don't realize how just springy it is. And it takes a second to adjust to that.
Sure.
And then looking out and seeing, obviously, Al Snow, seeing Coachman. It's fun, so crazy to think, Coach is one of my good buddies now. Seeing Taz, seeing Jackie. I don't know if you'll remember this, but during my interview, I remember thinking, okay, you have to stand out. There are 100 people in here who they're all going to blend in unless you do something to stand out. And that's when I winked at Jackie. And I will forever think that wink got me on the show. Forever. Yeah.
So not a bad idea. Not a bad idea there at all.
Who are some of the other contestants, if you will, that were involved with you during that first season?
The first season we had Chris Harvard, Chris Nowinski, who has went on to do amazing things in the world of concussion research. And I could not be happier for the impact he's going to leave on society. But he was the one person going in that I really thought, okay, they brought him in as a ringer. He had been trained by Kowalski. When we were learning how to do headlocks or just basic lockup, he already knew this. He had a head start, beyond anyone else's in the house. But it made sense to me. They don't want to look stupid. Whoever wins this contest is going to be put on WWF television. Yeah. They don't want to look dumb. So they have him in as a ringer. Big, good-looking kid. I thought the competition was his to lose. And then you had other people, Greg. I loved Greg. Josh, who, in my opinion, has had probably the best wrestling career of anybody from Tough Enough. He's been successful, continuously employed within the wrestling business since the day he left.
Nice.
And he hasn't taken one bump.
Not one bump.
So, and the thing about that is he went into a different role, and it's like he embraced it. It didn't seem like there was any bitterness. It's like Josh Matthews on commentary, and you're like, he's really, really good at this. So I'm glad that they were able to find a role for him and something that fit his skill set.
Yeah. And he was a good wrestler. He knew what he was doing and he could move. You could tell he had an athletics in him as well. But then we also had the Darryls of the house. And oh God, I can't imagine what like to know that this poor kid's lived his entire life. And the only thing he's known for is Triple H calling him for his nuts being out. Like, I can't imagine. Like what must that be like?
What a
That
badge
can't be
of honor.
good.
Boy,
That can't be good.
oh,
So did they? So when you're on the show, did the coaches did they kayfabe you about things, or did they just assume that you knew? Because Mick and Joe come from the days that they were never smartened up by Vern Gagne
Yeah.
when they got into
Yeah.
the business. So in terms of that being a reality TV show, like how did they prepare you?
They smartened us up to every aspect.
Okay.
Once we and maybe not Taz as much. Well, I even put Taz in the mix as well. Once we got to that stage, we were in the family. And
Okay.
we weren't an outsider. I know RVD talks about Sabu telling him before he got into the business, once you go through that dressing room, you're no longer a fan. Once you become a wrestler, you can't go back to being a fan.
gotcha.
Like you're either all in, it's like you can't be half pregnant. You're either all in or you're all out. And it's funny. We talk about Taz and look at that. You want to know the secret to my Tough Enough success? I mean, my YouTube success? I leave this damn channel running in this room, in my podcast room 24/7.
Nice.
But they didn't kayfabe us, and they were filling us in. They were trying to just give us as much information as humanly possible in a very small time frame. Because the original idea was we were going to do Tough Enough for 9 weeks. They were going to send us home for, I think, like 2 or 3 months while they cut up the show, and then they were going to bring us back and we were going to do the finale. So it was a short amount of time to learn a whole lot of stuff. But if you remember, that's when 9/11 happened, which pushed it back about a month or two. But yeah, they were trying to protect themselves with, not having a bad showing, because if I don't go out and do at least a half decent job, does Tough Enough 2 take place? Does Tough Enough 3, the subsequent years take place? Maybe not. So they had a lot riding on that first season.
Maven, as an old school guy, and we alluded to, or Chris alluded to, the Vern Gagne training camps. Back in the day, Vern takes these guys to, whether it was a Sergeant Slaughter or Ric Flair or whoever, puts them through the meat grinder, does not smarten them up until they are actually ready to go out and perform. I believe it was either Ric Flair or Slaughter said, or maybe Buddy Rose, I didn't know. They didn't tell me actually this business is a work until Vern said the first time we went out, do what you do at training camp. Go out there. Nobody has to really win. Just show the audience what you can do about 15, 20 minutes and the bell rang. Fast forward to today, when they're smartening you up from the very beginning, it's just a night and day world.
Different world. Yeah, different world. And I'll tell you what I blame it on. And I blame this on everything. And it's this right here. The cell phone and information is a commodity. And information is probably the one thing that everybody wants. There's not many people that want to know less about anything.
Right.
And it's professional wrestling, the same thing. And I think the reason that we're able to have a YouTube and just back, because people care sometimes more about the inner workings than they do about what's going on in the ring. So you go back to the Vern Gagnes, and you go back to just, I would say the 80s. That those guys probably can't even fathom that the world would get to where it's gotten. But here we are.
Having said that, do you, I mean, so much of your podcast is, we don't like the word exposing, but you're telling people what's going on in the business. You tell, the magician how the rabbit is pulled out of the hat, however you want to slice it. When you started doing this, and you weren't the first, because you go back 40 years and Eddie Mansfield went on 2020, and he said, this is how we do it. Did you get any blowback or pushback from any guys in the business and said, hey, what are you doing?
Shockingly, and I was prepared for it. I was waiting for it and I'm not going to worry about how much gas it takes to fill my yacht up because I don't have a yacht. So I wasn't worried about it at the beginning because I didn't have anything at the first couple months. At that point, I was just another wrestler with another YouTube channel. No one was really paying attention to it. But once it started to take off, then I said, okay, I might have something to worry about here. And then I just started waiting. And the waiting game began. And shockingly, no. I thought people were going to be pissed. I thought I was going to hear. And there's occasional people that maybe they're giving away too much. Okay. But one of the things I also say is if you disagree with me, that's your right. Mm-hmm. I want to be. Sometimes you can move me. Sometimes you can change my mind. I'm not so, dug into any position that with new information, I won't, change. I won't alter my beliefs. Change my mind if you feel like that. But what I found was people didn't want to give me shit for it. They wanted to know how they could do it themselves. And once other wrestlers started reaching out and being like, hey, take Devon, for instance. What you're doing, I want to do it. And I think the end all be all was once, and I can say this because he's admitted to it, and Matt Light admitted to it. Once Taker used our podcast to as kind of a template, a blueprint for putting out the first variation of 6 Feet Under, then I knew we were kind of in the clear, because once Taker does something, that's the stamp of approval.
Sure.
So I prepared myself. Once I knew we had something, I prepared myself for people to be pissed. And what I found in retrospect were people wanted help doing the exact same thing. Because I can only tell my story. I can't tell other people's stories. So I tell people all the time, do what we're doing, because all it's going to do, if you have a successful Stevie Richards, I talk to Stevie daily. And when Stevie puts a video out, I guarantee you there's probably a better than 50% chance the video, 1 or 2 under that one, that YouTube's trying to send you to is one of mine. And vice versa. Well, how's that hurting me? How's that hurting me at all?
It's such a different world, and I know the guys want to go on to some other topics here, but I'm kind of stuck on this because I remember when Mansfield spilled the beans and showed how to blade on television.
I remember that too.
Before that, it was, oh my God, they use blood capsules. The guy's got a packet of ketchup in his trunks. Well, Mansfield was so hated in the business back then for doing this. Mansfield and Jim Wilson, he was blackballed. I mean, wrestlers were threatening him. But since then, because the train left the station long ago, it's like this is commonplace. You get the Unreal television show, and this is just the way it is right now.
Yeah, he was the point man. And as you all know, the point man is always the one that's going to take the most incoming. But we don't have what we do without that. And I'm very grateful. I'm eternally grateful.
You said one thing there, Maven, is that everybody's coming to you, whether it's Devon, you gave Taker the template, or Stevie Richards. People are so protective of their ideas, of their intellectual properties. It's like, that's my idea. I came up with it. How dare you steal it? How dare you plagiarize? And at the end of the day, how can, kind of like what you're saying, how can you going out there and sharing these ideas, how can that be a bad thing? Because everybody's going to have a different piece of the pie, and there's nothing wrong, because you're not taking away from somebody. You're just allowing them to have another bite of it, just like everybody else.
Absolutely. If I can not only do what we do to help raise wrestling on YouTube, but if someone else can come in, and that just makes it a bigger, venue for all fans, how does that hurt? I'll never. I tell Zach all the time, man, I don't want all the money. I just want some of it. You know, like I don't need all of it, just some of it. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I like seeing others come in and find success. Like I love what Stevie and James do. I love it. I absolutely love it. Stevie sent me a text yesterday where they're going to be going, and I guess using one of our videos as a reference for one of their upcoming videos. And he just did the polite thing and asked if I minded. And I'm like, absolutely. And here's where some people might think, oh my God, you're allowing them to use your ideas. Well, what if someone sees that video of mine and they watch that right after they watch Stevie's video? Well, now what if 10,000 people do that? That helps me. I don't see how people don't understand that. What do they say about a rising tide lifting all boats? Well, that's what I want to portray and want to put out there for not only myself, but for all other wrestlers out there. And for those that don't want to do it and they want to hog and own and feel like they're in prison eating their dinner, like, you know, okay, I get it. But, you know, see how much success you have. I guarantee it won't be as much.
So Raven, I want to go. Raven, my God, Maven. Sorry,
not the first, won't be the last. You were just the next person to do that.
There you go. Thank you. So I want to go back. You've talked about what it was like when you first got into the ring at Tough Enough. Seeing you're in a WWE atmosphere. You've got a bunch of these stars and legends all around you. I want to go to the next step. Okay. What were your feelings when you were at your first TV show where you had the lights, you had the Jumbotron, you had, you had Jim Ross in the gorilla position. I mean, you had the show right in front of you. What was that experience like for you?
I attribute it to being like a wedding. And how many weddings have you ever been to where it's supposed to be the special day for the bride and groom, and who are having the worst time? The bride and groom. Who are stressed out the most? The bride and groom. And that's how it was for me. It was supposed to be a special day, but I was terrified. And I still remember going up and standing right at the curtain in Gorilla, getting ready to go out and turning around. And there's Vince and at the headset and Gerald Briscoe, Pat Patterson, my agent, and Taz standing there. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I could like if somebody gave me the option of dying right now, I think about it. Like, that's how scared I am. That's how nervous I am. And I remember thinking, I hate this feeling. Like, I hate it. Oh, I hate feeling this nervous. And I would feel that every match I ever had, whenever I would stand in that position. Wow. But it would mysteriously go away the second I went through the curtain. Then I would look out and I would be like, man, this is so effing cool.
I was just going to ask, cool. I mean, once you went through that curtain and you saw 15,000 people, did you just soak it in? Just let that energy from the crowd, you're hearing the music and you're walking to the ring. I mean, that had to be just absolutely phenomenal. Did you get like goosebumps and shit?
Oh, it's funny. I always had to pee. I would always have to pee right before. The bathroom would be the last place I would stop before I went to Gorilla. And lo and behold, I still had to pee right before. But again, it was another thing. It always went away. And it's crazy to
That's
think.
like Mick and Joe every time that we record.
Yeah.
They have the pee bucket underneath their desks. There. It's crazy to think, like, at one time, all these people in this arena, they're looking at me. And I know there's millions of people at home and they're watching me right now. And it's so, I grew up in the country in Virginia, as hick as you can grow up. hunting and fishing, and to think that anyone from my humble upbringings could find themselves in a WWE ring, in front of thousands and millions of people. It's just, again, the audacity to even dream that never even came into my mind.
So you came into, you came in kind of the unconventional way, so when you're working and, you're making your way in your career, like, who were some of the guys that you were close to? I know you talk about some of the guys that you talk to on a daily basis now, like the Stevie Richards, and, you talk to Devon, and, you got relationship with Taker and everything. But when you're working, like, who were the guys that you were close to? Did you have like the heat that you had with guys? I know that I saw a video where, you're kind of making amends with guys like a Perry Saturn. I thought that was such an emotional thing to see you talk to Perry, and just the apprehension of making up later on. Like, what kind of heat did you have from guys, kind of based on how you came in?
Yeah, it was definitely there. And Perry was one of the ones who was vocal about it. I still remember hearing him, make little comments off to the side, especially once I got booked for WrestleMania 18. And I remember I pissed Test off, because that was originally supposed to be Test's spot in that Mania. And I mean, that's taking away a pretty decent paycheck that someone's going to get. So, but I also knew, just like with my upbringings, my dad, if there's one thing he instilled in me, it's keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, and do what you're told. So that's what I did. And I knew if I went about my business, didn't bitch, didn't complain, didn't, try to overstep boundaries. And if I would just learn from these legends. I mean, I'm in the ring, my first couple months. I still remember I did a tag match where I'm tagging with Hunter against Taker and Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just insane. And a year and a half prior to that, I was a 6th grade school teacher. So what am I going to tell these guys?
Yeah.
Nothing. So keep your mouth shut. And I did that long enough, and I think I just went about my business at a rate to where eventually guys would be like, okay, I don't like how he got here, but he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
And eventually I knew if I did that, I could win guys over.
Well, if it wasn't going to be you, it was going to be somebody else in that position.
Yeah, it could have been a dick. It could have been a dickhead. It could have been someone who was an asshole. So I made sure everybody knew just how grateful I was, not only to be in that position, but to have them giving me their body, and I wrestled, and I've talked about it at nauseum on the channel. My times in the ring with Bob Holly, those first 3 to 4 weeks, they made me work Bob every house show. And that was to try to break me. And they gave Bob specific instructions. And Bob's told me, go out, put this kid through it. Let's see if he deserves and belongs here. Mm-hmm. And after every match, I just went up to Bob and never complained about him hitting me hard, never complained about anything. Just, how was it? How can I get better? And eventually that won Bob over. And once you won him over, and then I had the spot with Taker.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I was a made guy at that point, but, it's kind of hard having heat with me once Bob Holly and Undertaker don't. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of, you're working with these main event guys. So obviously they saw something in you. Like, who were they, the guys that kind of had to be like, hey, this is a guy, we're going to ride with him. He's got something. We want to make him a big part of our show. We want to make him a main event guy. What was it, those guys giving you their blessing that kind of thawed the ice a little bit with some of the other guys?
Absolutely. Because if I go out and I work with a Triple H, if I work with an Undertaker, a Kurt Angle, and they're going back and telling people backstage, A, he can't listen. or he doesn't, or he's always trying to put in his 2 cents, or man, he's difficult to work with. My career ends very quickly. As quickly as it started, it ends equally as quick. So again, I was so steadfast focused on keeping my mouth shut, doing what I was told, and trying to add to the product, trying to just this very little spot, this position I had, just trying to make it something that people remembered when they went home. I already knew they're going to remember seeing The Rock. They're going to remember that glass breaking. But if they also on their ride home remember, and how cool was it seeing the kid from Tough Enough? Man, can you believe a year and a half ago he was a school teacher? If I could do that, because they knew I wasn't a finished product. They knew the wrestler I was going to not be that great. But if I could send them home thinking, man, he's one of us. He's literally one of us. Then I could have something there.
So you had I got to give you kudos. You had a pretty good hell of a run. I mean, when you're in the ring against the Undertaker and not doing a squash match, that's saying something. So you deserve the credit that is due to you. But at what point did you know or think that your time being a wrestler was done?
It's weird. Like when I got fired from the WWE, I was probably I was probably the most secure in my job the day I got fired. I had literally just signed a new contract a couple months before, a 3-year deal. My work had gotten so much better. If you go back and you look at the last few matches I had, I looked like a completely different wrestler than when I first broke in. So I was picking it up. I was getting it. My body was developing, and I was very secure with my positioning. I had done some main event stuff with the top guys. I figured they were just giving me more experience, more time in the saddle to break myself in before my next run. So getting released when I did, it was, it was one of the biggest shocks of my life. And that, man, at that point, I got bitter. I figured I had just given 5 years of my life, every waking moment, and my unconscious moments. I still dream about professional wrestling. I literally still have wrestling dreams to this day. And to have it taken away, I walked away from the business and wanted no part of it. I was like, they don't want me, to hell with them. And it took a couple years to get back, to get that itch back and say, okay, maybe I'm not totally done yet.
Maven, you look at the landscape of the wrestling business now, and you look at when WWE.
Do I have to? Do I have to?
Exactly. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. Let me tell you. But WWE will all of a sudden, whether it's with the NXT people or the main roster guys, all of a sudden there's these cuts. And people are like, their heads are spinning. What they're releasing her, they're releasing him. So I can understand the bitterness. All of a sudden, the rug is pulled out from underneath you. But I want to go back a little bit. Before you were let go, were there any aspects of the business that you did not personally like? I mean, I know you're thrust in the spotlight. You're a WWE superstar. What parts of the business did you just find a little bit distasteful, if there were any?
When we were doing Tough Enough and Steve Austin came to the house, he told us, he said, I don't get paid. They don't pay me to wrestle. They pay me to travel. And I still remember thinking, oh my God, I would love to get to that position, because at the time I was so worried that I was going to mess a wrestling match up. But I still remember thinking, okay, I'm not as worried about the matches. Now the travel, it is. I see what he was talking about. That's the part of the business that I least looked forward to. The knowing that I was going to be on 3 flights in one day, and I was going to have a 2-hour layover in Atlanta to then fly to DC, to then fly to have another hour layover. To then, it's just the travel is what eventually I think becomes the drag on every wrestler. The wrestling becomes the fun part. You know, we talked earlier about being in front of that many people and entertaining them, and that becomes the fun part. And then it's the renting the cars and going to the airports and dealing with TSA every week. And that becomes the headache.
You know, it's amazing, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. The average guy, if he goes, let's say he's taking a trip to Las Vegas, he goes out to the airport and he's got an hour and a half delay, and his whole freaking life is turned upside down. Oh my God, an hour and a half. And you guys are facing that kind of thing, what, 25, 26 days out of the month? Yeah. I just can't imagine. You know, the late Mad Dog Vachon at one point said, he was asked about wrestling, and he said basically the same thing. He said the travel would absolutely kill the average person. You just don't get how grueling it is.
Yeah. And when we were doing the house show schedule that I was, you know, that we had when I was there, I mean, remember, we would, a normal week would start a loop, as we called it. I would get up around probably 3 in the morning, go to the airport, because I was always on the first flight out. And that was a 6 a.m. flight. And it was never going to, I never had just one flight. It was always a flight, layover, then another flight, then get the rental car, pick Randy up, go wrestle. And then after all that, usually we would have a 3 or 4 hour drive at the end of all that to get to the next town. And we would do that, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that was week after week. And you have to really love the business to do that. And it's funny. That's, those car rides and being in the locker room, looking back, that's what I miss. I don't miss the matches as much. I'm old and I get that. But I do miss the camaraderie in the locker room.
Wow. I just can't imagine, and the WWE has cut back on their house shows considerably. I mean, from back in the day, but still, God, that travel just has to be incredible. You mentioned the camaraderie of the business. Is that something that in this day and age where you don't work as many house shows, where all of it, you're in one city, you might have a week off and then you fly in for a pay-per-view. Is the camaraderie still there? Are the guys and the gals as close as they used to be, or is it just people passing in the night?
That's a good question. And I would say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll add another caveat to it, which might change and add to that question. Back when I was there, you were reliant on the WWE for making you a star. Now, again, you can make yourself a star. So does that add to camaraderie, or do they view everything as competition? I have more followers than you. My TikTok went viral, yours didn't. I don't know how it is. I know it's probably a very competitive environment, very competitive atmosphere now. And I mean, is that a good thing? Is that bad? I don't know. Social media has changed everything. It's changed how not only we look at other people, but how we view ourselves. And I say that being the beneficiary of a social media platform. But I don't know what it's like in the locker room now. Is it you scratch my back, I scratch yours? Could be. Whenever Chris Van Vliet hits me up, he always asks if I've done his show 4 times now. And if he texts me and says, hey, I want to have you on like he did a few months back, my immediate response is absolutely. Will you do a video for us as well? So it's kind of I help you, you help me. But does everybody subscribe to that belief? I don't know. That I don't know.
So we've talked a lot on our podcast about how wrestling has changed, and we're going back to the AWA days, to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. How vastly different it was from that period to, we'll say, the 90s and even in the 2000s when you started. Now let's fast forward to today. Vince sells the WWE or Titan Sports, whatever the name was. It's really become a corporate show.
Yeah.
The ticket prices have seemed to go through the roof. It's like, do you think that maybe they're outpricing themselves from the traditional wrestling fan?
Absolutely. They're pricing families out. They're literally pricing out a family of 4 for going to their show. And it's sad. I know when I went to my first show at 7 years old in Richmond Coliseum, it was my dad, me, and my dad's friend. And I think we went and did the entire show, ate, gas, everything for under $200. And that's tickets. That's everything included, my dad told me.
Wow.
Now, that's not even buying you one ticket to a show, a decent ticket anymore. It's sad, but it's not just wrestling. All sports has went corporate like that. I worked for the Brooklyn Nets for a while, and they encouraged us, don't try to sell season tickets to families. Families can't afford these. Sell them to corporations. And it's sad. And because, whatever you have to say about Vince McMahon, okay. But Vince knew that families and building lifelong wrestling fans, he knew that was the smartest avenue. And he knew, if I capture you at 8 years old, there's a better than average chance I'm going to have you at 28 years old. And now, because there's not a shortage of things to entertain people, and if it's not wrestling, it'll be something else. Something will fill in those gaps. That much I promise.
Yeah.
It's sad. I hate it.
I will have to give kudos to Vince for something that he did not do. And that was not making the wrestling ring look like a NASCAR.
I hate it.
It's like when I first saw that, and I get it. It's money. The WWE has turned 100% corporate.
Yeah.
I get it. Doesn't mean that I have to like it, but it's like when I saw that first advertising, I sort of felt like I got slapped in the face as an old school wrestling fan.
Yeah.
It's like seeing a wrestler walk into the ring without wiping their boots, to show respect to those that came before him. So to Vince, for all of his faults and flaws, as we all have, I have to give him credit for that. He at least kept some semblance of old school in his product.
Yeah. I feel like I'm watching a Brazilian Muay Thai fight or something overseas, where they literally view everything as real estate. And I don't think it needs to be I hate it. The canvas was the bridge too far for me. That was the okay, you've gone too far.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, when you Google WWE, it comes up as a production company, and I'm like, that's it. It is wrong on so many levels, but that's where society is. That's where things are going. Yeah. And you either get on the train.
What's the answer to every question? The answer to every question is money.
Yeah.
That's just, that's
exactly right. We started out by talking with Zach and the success of your podcast, and you kind of touched on it briefly at the beginning as we're getting ready to wrap this thing up, take it home. Did you ever expect that kind of response from fans and from, fellow people in the business, just about how this thing is taken off? Because everybody wants to find lightning in a bottle. I mean, you don't do it if you don't think that you can create good content, but you guys struck a nerve in a way that nobody else has been able to do. And I don't know if anybody's going to be able to. You can give them the recipe, but I don't think that anybody's going to be able to copy it and have the dish taste exactly like you guys are. I mean, is this exceeded your expectations? I mean, because right now, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that you guys are the hottest thing right now in the wrestling podcast world, and I think that's a complete shoot.
Yeah, to ask if it exceeded my expectations month one. I had a goal that I didn't even share with anybody. I just kept to myself, and I said, if in a year, if we can be making X amount of dollars, and that can be just just extra income, man, I'd be so happy. Man, we did that in month one, the first month. And to think of where it's went since then, I'm making more money now than I did when I was wrestling. Think about that.
Unreal.
I'm making and here's the crazy thing about it. It's not close. Like it's not close. That's the bonkers thing about it. And I'm my own boss. I'm having more fun. I get to do stuff like this. And the older you get in life, you start thinking of legacy. When you're in your 20s, you don't give a shit. Who gives a shit about legacy? But once you're on the back nine of life and you realize, there's far fewer sunrises in my future than I've seen, you'd start thinking about stuff like that. And I've come to grips with what my career was. And Joe, I appreciate the kudos, but I also realized that I probably didn't do all in the wrestling business that I wish I had. But that's okay, because, if you would have looked 3 years ago, I would have been a footnote for the guy that kicked Undertaker out of that one Rumble. Whereas now my legacy will be felt in this space, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm okay.
My last question was going to be about the legacy that you're leaving in the business, but I'm going to do a little pirouette here, because in listening to you, and again, so many thanks. Can't thank you enough, not only for giving us the rub, being on the podcast, but just just the guy that you are. And I mean, we're not blowing smoke. I mean, you're a genuine guy, and your podcast reflects who you are. And the people, as I said at the beginning, they're gravitating to you because they know they can. First of all, I want to finish up here on kind of a hypothetical question. Years ago, Bobby Heenan did a shoot interview. And at the very end, somebody asked him, whoever was doing it, said, "So tell us about the state of professional wrestling, Bobby." And his response was, "The magic is gone. If you're in the business for anything other than money, you're protecting the business, whatever, you're a fool." So my question to you: we know on a corporate level how much money is being made right now. For God's sakes, they're charging $30,000 for a ringside ticket for WrestleMania. We know from a corporate standpoint and a money standpoint where wrestling is. Is professional wrestling itself, not the corporate side of it, is pro wrestling dead as we knew it?
Let me answer that in one way, with visual aids. As a teacher, I know I was always a better teacher when I could show my students rather than tell them. You ask, and I'm going to answer it. This is my bin of fan mail that I have answered every single letter. I have replied to every bit of mail in here. I don't get an extra dime. I don't make an extra cent for doing that. And I do it because wrestling is not dead, because I remember what it was like seeing someone and thinking, oh my gosh, this person is larger than life. And the thought that someone now views me that way, if I can answer a letter, if I can have my Sharpie here, if I can sign an autograph that they send, knowing that I'm making their day or adding to it. I tell people all the time, if you see me in public, come say hi to me. You're making my day. I'm not making yours. And that's why I do that. Because if wrestling is indeed dying a corporate death, it won't be on my watch. And I'm going to do everything in my power to keep its heartbeat going a little bit longer. When we get off this phone, I'm going to go grab that green bag I showed you earlier with the autographs I signed yesterday. And I do it every day. And I'm running it out and putting it in the mailbox. Again, I don't make a dime on that. And I don't. And if sometimes people send me money, I put it right back in their envelope and send it back to them, because I don't want it. I know what it would have meant to me, and to know that I am like, I can't even fathom that I'm that for someone else. Like I'm the most I am the most regular human being you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing special about me. So to think that every day someone gets a piece of mail and it's me and I'm making someone smile, guys, it might die, but it won't be on my watch. It won't be on my watch.
I can't thank you enough. And to hear you say
You're
those words, yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. Wrestling is in your heart and in your soul, but even beyond that is the human being. And again, I'm not stroking you. I mean, you gotta,
people are in my heart. People are in my heart. People are in my soul. Because you'd be shocked at the stuff that people just lay out to me.
Wow.
I mean, I'm talking like stuff that just things that they're struggling with and going through, and life's, you learn I tell Zach all the time, the older you get, you learn life ain't fair, but it ain't fair to everybody.
Right.
And again, if I can just add if I can put a smile on someone's face for a stupid YouTube channel, man, I don't want to take the blessing that God gave me and squander it.
Wow. I mean, it's so nice to hear someone who doesn't take themselves too seriously having that kind of success, because we know that so many people feel like they are the end all be all of it. And at the end of the day, we're all just flesh and blood. We're here. We're sharing the same space. We're sharing the same earth. And we just need to be compassionate. And I hear that compassion from you, Maven. And I think that this is also a side that people don't get a chance to see. And I'm glad that it's able to humanize individuals, because sometimes you forget that there's a real person behind whatever persona that people might think there is.
Yeah. There's times when I'll read something and my heart will go out to them, and I'm literally like just searching around. What can I do to make this letter better? And what can I write? What can I add to it? I had a guy in this thing I'm sending out. Guy sends and he says he's got a medical issue, and he sent me probably 10 pictures, and he even said it in his thing. He's like, I'm gonna try to sell these just to help with offset my costs. So I'm literally looking around my house. What else can I give him? And you know what I came up with? And these are my old HSN. These are my old HSN business cards. Like these, Like these are literally they don't mean anything anymore. Hell, that number hasn't worked in years. But look, like this is just I put them over here and I'm adding them into every one I send out. And why? Because it's something that again might just make someone smile a little bit more. I'm not gonna do anything with them. They're gonna go to the garbage can one day. So it's about the people. Yeah, it is 100% about the people.
I said an hour.
I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I'm glad that you guys have your platform. I'm glad that you're not letting what we all came to this business for. Because I guarantee you, if we all sat around and had dinner, we would find out that we fell in love with wrestling for the same reason. All of us for the exact same reason. And it's a common bond that wrestling fans have. Doesn't matter where we're from, how we grew up, what we do on a day in, day out basis. We all still have that common bond. And that's what I hope and pray that we don't lose.
Bless your heart. And I said, an hour and a quarter ago, people are gravitating to you and they're sending you these letters because they know they can, because they know they're not sending them to some asshole who's just going to throw it in the garbage. As I don't want to be bothered with this fan mail. You go above and beyond, and it has been an absolute pleasure not only to have you on the show and give us the rub, and you certainly did, but just to get to know you as a person, how real and down to earth you are. And I know I speak for the guys. I can't thank you enough, Maven. Seriously.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. I had a blast. You guys are doing God's work because so many people, they don't want to remember what made the business so great. So I'm glad you guys are. I really am.
Thanks, Maven.
Yeah.
Continued success.
That was my pleasure. Thank you, guys. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Maven.
Take care.
Thank you, Maven.
Guys.
All right, there he is. And check out his podcast, Maven K. Huffman, the podcast channel. Of course, my buddy Zach and Maven just doing absolutely fantastic stuff. And I know this doesn't fit the usual old school format, but I think when you look at it in its totality, guys, you're talking about somebody who appreciates the old school, but it was a very unconventional way to get into the business. And I think that can't be understated to see what they're doing right now and the success that they've had. And frankly, out of the almost 200 shows that we've done, this one is very personal to me because of Zach. And Zach, he was like a little brother to me when I was in Sioux Falls. And to see what he's doing, it's just really cool. And I'm so proud of him because you never know what people are capable of. And to see what he has done, this was one that I really wanted to get in, and I wanted to get Zach's perspective and into Maven. So, thank you guys for indulging me on this.
Don't mention it. I mean, this was a heartfelt broadcast all the way around. Your connection with Zach, and then, of course, listening to the kind of human being that Maven is. I did not know. I mean, I watched Maven's podcast, I watched his wrestling career, but when you listen to him talk and you realize the kind of individual that he is, and what I thought was really telling about your buddy Zach is that Maven at one point at the very beginning, he alluded to the fact that Zach keeps him on track. Maven is deferring to Zach to keep the train moving. And a lot of guys in Maven's position would not do that. They'd say, hey, I'm the star. You're along for the ride. So, congratulations to Zach on his success. Clearly, you guys have a brotherhood that is, beyond reproach. And Maven, again, we've had a couple of guests on this show over the 180 some that we've done that really stand above and beyond head and shoulders and transcend this horrifically clusterfuck of a business, professional wrestling. And Maven is certainly one of those guys. I am thrilled that we had him on the show. And thanks to you, Chris, and thanks to Zach for putting it all together.
Yeah, I have to admit, going into the show, I certainly knew Maven. I mean, I'm a wrestling fan. You know, I was aware of Tough Enough and his career, but I really wasn't quite sure what to expect. And two words come to mind when, after doing this for an hour and a half now, is that Maven is genuine and he is real. Yep. And that is not something you come across in everyday life, let alone in the wrestling business. So just a pleasure for me to be able to sit here and listen to him. A very articulate person, obviously loves what he does. But my one piece of advice to him, he's what he said. He was 48 years old. Keep being genuine, keep being real. So,
yep.
Thank you, Maven.
Yep. Let's get to some shout outs here, guys, and then we'll take it home. Go ahead, Nick.
All right. What a show. My buddy Tony Skogman, that SOB Tony. I don't know how old he is, 115, 120 now, but he's at all the shows. Refers to me as Dad, which is interesting. But Tony is a longtime fan, big fan of mine, big fan of the show. Love you, Tony Skogman. Keep doing what you're doing.
My blind dart throw goes out to Sean Boyle, part of the AWA Unleashed Army on our Facebook page. So keep those comments coming, Sean.
And mine's going to go to Dwayne Aarons, who's a longtime Pinfall member. Thank you, Dwayne, for always being there and supporting us and always chiming in with a comment with the shows. So if you guys want to be a Pinfall member, $4.99. The link is in the description as well. So great show, guys. Again, thank you for indulging me and my chance to give my buddy Zach his flowers, because again, that's my little brother, you know, and from being a wet behind the ears kid in Sioux Falls to being one of the most influential producers in the wrestling podcast industry. It's not easy. It's not easy. And he's doing good. He's doing good. I'm really proud of him.
He had a good mentor. Let's not ignore that either. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Maven.
Yeah, and can we wrap this now? Because like Maven, as he was standing at the curtain, I got to piss.